Hello, friends. Welcome to How She Owns It, a podcast dedicated to female entrepreneurs and boss moms who left their 9 to 5 to own their time, their finances, and their joy by building their own businesses. So in this episode, I have Cheryl of Key Elements, and she is just an ambitious coach for personal success and an accomplished catalyst for career and business growth. So Cheryl and I connected through Facebook, actually, because she was hiring, and it seems like such a great place to work in. So Cheryl, welcome to the show. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yes, well, thanks for having me. From a young age, I knew that I wanted to grow up and have an impact in the world. It seemed lofty, but it was what was always at my core. So today, I am a certified leadership and mindset coach. And I'm also a certified 12-week-year trainer. I work predominantly with women in empowering them to shatter their glass ceiling and achieve ambitious results. I started by building my career in corporate, and I loved operating on a global scale. I like the fast pace and the change in building high-performing teams and empowering others to achieve. My last corporate gig was with BlackBerry. Gratefully, I was there through it all when they were at their peak with 24,000 people and 3,000 people when I left. There was so much that I got to experience and draw from in that. But I also struggled with the challenges of raising 2 kids, being a single mom, having them 100% of the time, and the guilt of trying to perfect work-life balance. I have a tip for people: it doesn't exist. I encourage people to create work-life flow instead. There are times when one will take more than the other. And then it was a health scare, more like a health brick wall. I can't really call it a scare. And years of me operating at peak speed and being everything to everyone landed me in the hospital with burnout. It was the diagnosis of Addison's disease, and I burned out my adrenal system. It was just kind of that wake-up call that life is short. Wow. I'm here to thrive, not just survive. So I completely dismantled my world and rebuilt it into a life that I love, that fulfills me and empowers me. I'm truly living every day.
And I love that, because that resonates. That's kind of story, that kind of corporate burnout really resonates with people. But what's so interesting with you is that it actually physically manifested itself in such a drastic way that you ended up in hospital. I have a client as well who speaks very openly about it. She's also a coach, and she thought she was having a heart attack, and she was in the emergency room for a while, but it was actually just a panic attack from all the anxiety and stress of working in a leadership role. So from working at BlackBerry, how did you find coaching? How did that transition occur?
Coaching has always actually been a part of me. I just didn't necessarily recognize it in that way, but I did coach in various aspects, even external, like in my personal time. I used to coach gymnastics, and it's just part of who I am. My transition came from this need to create work that worked for me. It just seemed to be somewhat of a natural progression. When I first started my business, that it didn't look the same as it does today. I originally started where I was just working with business scaling and had people saying, just do what you're good at doing, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't my true passion. I was on a beach in Mexico with a girlfriend of mine. We went there for 5 days, and she owned her own business. We kept talking about what I was doing in my business, and it would be so great if I could do this, this focus on this other area. But I've been told, don't just focus on women. She said, well, let's spend the next hour talking about what it would look like if you did. In an hour, I had 17 pages. And I
love friends like that.
I know. We need them, right? We joke because she, it's like, use your own words on you. Like the advice I'd give to somebody else. She's using
so true.
That.
So true. That's why I'm a great believer that everyone should have some kind of therapist or coach. And one of the main questions I wanted to ask was, how did you make that transition? How did you find your first clients? Because I was always under the impression that coaching is a very kind of saturated space. There's a lot of people who are very skeptical of coaches. There's a lot of people who think coaches are like therapists, and to some extent they just take your money and it's all wishy-washy and just Google it. That kind of mentality. Was it quite difficult? How did the other people in your life, whether your family, your friends, your colleagues, how did they take that? Because it's not every day that people go from, okay, let me just come from working in tech to, let me be a coach. It's quite a transition.
It is. And a lot of people experience this. Some people have had an experience with a coach and it didn't work, whether they were working with the wrong coach, it wasn't the right person suited for what they needed to do. It is an industry that is unregulated. So you do want to look into the background of the person, and it is helpful to work with individuals who are certified in areas that you need support. And it was a transition. There are people that, because they are in my life in a different capacity, they don't necessarily see me as that expert. In my corporate career, I got lots of referrals from people that I worked with, but it wasn't an easy transition in the sense that I had this corporate persona that as a woman, you have this very tough corporate persona. And when you're transitioning into coaching, people work with you because they connect with you and they relate with you. It wasn't as easy a transition as I thought it would be, because I wasn't shedding. I was still just in this corporate box. There were people in my professional life that absolutely saw me in that capacity, and there were other people that didn't, or they didn't understand what I was doing. I think it was probably about 1.5 to 2 years in, I had someone say to me, like, "What do you do?"
Oh my gosh. That's my life right now. She works online. And I'm just like, yeah, I work online and I help female owners do their business. But it's so hard. It's almost like you have to have a tagline that you just memorize so you can regurgitate it.
And it's really sharing. Right? Sharing authentically who you are. And I think coaches that I work and speak with, it's really just be yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And you absolutely helped me out with finding my coach accelerator program. So super helpful tips. It is a connection in it. You gave some great tips on finding out how they've helped others and then jumping on a call with them and making sure that there is a connection. That's really wonderful. So how did you land your first client?
My first client was a referral.
Oh, nice.
I've also gotten a lot of clients that have come to me from speaking events that I've been at or training workshops that I have provided for different areas. I've had people, former colleagues and people that I've worked with on teams that have actually reached out to me through LinkedIn and said, I have a friend that's looking for some help. I told them you're super great. Like, we had worked together in some capacity and getting those connections. It's really about being yourself, sharing what you believe in, sharing your purpose, why it's important to you and why it matters. The right people will connect with you on that.
Right. People always talk about building your personal brand to be one of authority. How did you build authority in a way that people see you as a Cheryl coach? How do you think you did that?
Just started sharing. I started sharing and talking about my knowledge, what I was doing, how I was helping individuals, conversations I was having. Still do that, where if I'm having a conversation and you can jump on and do a live afterwards and say, we're talking about this, and share, because that allows people to hear from you and see what you're doing. I'd share feedback from clients. I think one of the things as women is we are not great at sharing and celebrating our successes out loud. We feel like it's bragging, and we need to.
I used to work at Google, and we had this program called I Am Remarkable, and I'm actually a facilitator of that workshop. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's all about helping women and minorities say I am remarkable because of this, and like basically shouting it in the rooftop. It's such a detriment when we don't do that, because what they have found is that women get passed over for promotions because they just don't have that exposure in the same way that their male counterpart do. And minorities feel it a lot more because they are the only one in the office. So I agree 100%.
It's visibility, right? Create your own visibility. At first, I'd be going out and I'd be, doing leadership training for a company, doing a workshop and all these other things. I was telling my friends, but I wasn't sharing it out. I was doing myself a disservice by not sharing that, because once I started sharing, I'm like, oh, I'm the keynote speaker for the PMI symposium. And they're like, what? Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And just the fact that I'm a certified trainer in the 12-week year, and I'm the only person certified in Canada.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And it's to really like share things out and be proud of our accomplishments, what we're doing and what we're creating, and just be loud.
Absolutely. And we're both quite extroverted. And I'm a massive fan of Brené Brown and being vulnerable and all of that. But I think actually sometimes not necessarily in social media, but in person, people are always like, you're very intense. You tend to share a lot. So I'll be at a party and before you know it, I've met this girl and we're just talking deep about all these things. And it's just like, I literally met you half an hour ago. It's very different in social media, I think. I'm not quite sure why, but for me, I've always felt a bit of resistance to sharing in social or online in general. It's something I am working on. So I can only imagine for people who are more introverted, who are more conservative in their emotions, that must be like a really overwhelmingly hard thing to do. For our listeners who are hearing all of this and thinking, yeah, you're right, I agree 100%. I am owning things, I am owning life and achievements and all of that, but they just feel a lot more resistance than us to share things out loud. Do you deal with that kind of mind blocks? I assume you've worked with a lot of women with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even had it for myself because of so many years in corporate. You had to be perfectly put together. Your wording always had to be perfect. There's a lot of pressure. I call it the corporate robot. And I'm an extrovert. I don't encourage this to people. So this is like a public service announcement. I'm not encouraging anyone to go and do this. But I have gone to my husband's ball tournaments and taken a helium balloon and then given helium-fueled motivational speeches. That's a part of me, but it's not something I ever would have shared in corporate. But on social media, it's social. The point of it is to be able to connect with people and allow people to get to know you and be able to build relationships. It's okay to be social. And it's okay if you are an introvert and you don't want to put everything out there. And I can be told by people that I'm too much. And that's fine. You can be authentic to yourself, but you want to be putting out enough that people can connect with you, learn about you, and understand what you are doing and how you can help them.
So Cheryl, if I'm a potential client and I say to you, I barely use Facebook and most of my Facebook friends are people I'm not even friends with them in real life, how would they take the little baby steps to get to where we've just advised them to do?
I created separate social media from my personal, because on my personal, I would share things about my kids or pictures of them, and I just kept that very private. Then on my company ones, I would start sharing. And a lot of people hear about Beyonce's Sasha Fierce, right? She has her alter ego. Create your alter ego. My alter ego's name is Olivia. I do energy work, so things like tapping and stuff like that. I will get into an energy. I do my Wonder Woman power pose because it broadens you. It allows you to be breathing deeply instead of shallow chest breathing, and just do it. And I still struggle with it. I can go and speak on stage in front of 500 people and I love it. I'm on fire. But you put my phone in front of me and hit live on Instagram and I'm like, right? Because it's not what I grew up with. I just think, okay, what do I want to share? What am I trying to get across? And if it's not perfect, that's fine. I've had tech fails in the middle of it, all kinds of things. I just call it out, laugh, and carry on.
That's so great. For me, one of Beyonce's top tips is that if you're feeling really low, just take a shower and put on makeup, even if you're staying in the house. And I've been doing that a lot during this lockdown.
Yeah, and I love dancing. I love dancing and moving. It brings me joy. I put on music and I have my high vibe playlist. I will put that on and it's like 6-7 songs, let it play through and I feel totally different. And I'll have a mini dance party and my puppy, who is always beside me, looks at me like I'm kind of crazy.
I love it.
But it's good because it changes how you're feeling and then you feel good.
Cheryl, you gave such a wonderful kind of mini course to me in our last time we chat about the 120-day year.
12-week year.
12-week year, sorry.
Yeah.
12-week year. I'm all about kind of really taking action and giving a lot of value to listeners. If you could kind of explain how you integrate that when you started your business. And I love it because you were already doing it in corporate and then you just did it in your own business. So can you talk us through what that's all about?
It's a cornerstone of my business and it's a cornerstone of how I work with my clients. It sounds cliche, but I read a book and it changed my life. What it did is it empowered me to be able to take back control of my time. It allowed me to show up in the places that mattered most to me with my best, within my career, with my children as their mom, and as an individual who's really driven and constantly developing. I teach people to, I have the sign behind me, accomplish more in 12 weeks than many do in 12 months. And it doesn't mean that you're doing everything that you would do in a year in 12 weeks, but you get focus. We're heading into this season right now. You'll see a big push from people October, November, December. And there's sales and people are really focused on what they're doing because they want to hit their targets. because no one wants to stand there on New Year's Eve and they're like, hey, how was your year? And you're like, it was great. I didn't meet any of my goals. So we leverage that sense of urgency and that focus, and we identify the right things to work on, the key critical actions, and we measure it to make sure that it's working. And it's incredibly impactful. This year has been a great example because COVID, global pandemic, to my knowledge, the world has not shut down before. It's had major impacts. And my clients that are operating, especially in their business, using these 12-week cycles have been able to navigate it and pivot much more easily. And when you have your team, and it doesn't have to be a big team, this is what I love about it, is you can do it with BlackBerry, you can do it with Google, but you don't need their employee base or their pocketbook to be able to do this. It works for an individual. It works for small business. It allowed me to plan a wedding, complete a degree, start a business, and take care of my daughter post-op all at the same time, without ripping my hair out, because you really identify what matters most and what you need to be doing.
Can you give us a kind of quick overview if someone's listening to this and kind of want to have a little taster of how they can apply this with their own business? So take, for example, the typical client of mine, which is a very, very busy mom who has turned away from corporate and have very young kids, maybe under 5. And then they decided, actually, the corporate life isn't for me. I want to be with my kids. I want the freedom without hurting too much the income of the household. So she decided to start her own business, but then she's trying to find the right balance of growing and scaling her business, her small business, and looking after her kids and
your family.
Yeah.
This really is the best foundation I have found for scaling, because it's sustainable. Because your growth is sustainable and you're always looking at what matters most. Because you're operating in a 12-week cycle, you're working on what matters most to your business right now. So you're able to build in the key critical activities that you've defined that you need to do into your schedule, and you can build that in around the rest of life. When things go sideways, when you have 15 minutes or 30 minutes, exactly what you need to be doing, instead of feeling really overwhelmed about all of the things that need to be done, you know what your focus is and what you're moving forward to. It's challenging with little ones. You don't always get 2 and 3 hour chunks of time to be able to work on your business. So if you have 30 minutes, you need those 30 minutes to be really effective for you. And planning in this way really allows you to be able to do that. It reduces the overwhelm. And as women, we feel like we have to do all of the things. So we do a little bit of everything all of the time. We're mediocre at many instead of great at a few. By operating in this planning format, you're able to be great at a few and build greater momentum.
I want to hone in a little bit on your zone of expertise, which is mindset. One of the main things is turning away from corporate. And as women, we need certainty because we're caregivers and we're looking after other people. What would you advise for an entrepreneur who suddenly wakes up and be like, what am I doing? Why did I leave my stable 9-to-5 job that gave me pension and medical and all the things? How dare I pretend?
Yeah. What was I thinking?
What was I thinking? It happened to me a few days ago. I'm like, what? I'm scared. I'm hiring people. What is going on?
Yeah.
You know?
It is. And I call it the next level devil. Every time we're scaling up, it's our inner imposter that's coming out and saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Why you? Why you? Who are you to do this? Why do you think you can do this? It's all throughout my corporate career. I was always talked about have the right attitude. If you have a good attitude and you have the right attitude, you'll make it. But nobody ever talked about cultivating the right mindset. And shifting from employee to entrepreneur is a major,
oh my gosh,
it's massive. It's a roller coaster. You're going to have
oh gosh, yes. The highs are really high and the lows are really low.
Yeah, like I call my husband and I'm like, I am crushing it, like world domination. And the next day I'm in the fetal position crying, going, I don't think I can do this.
My housemate laughs at me because my room has a walk-in closet and I just go there, put on like my diffuser in the dark and try to meditate, but also kind of panic a little bit. A bit of both.
Yeah. Any entrepreneur out there, if they say they've got it together all the time, they are lying, right? It's a roller coaster. It's very, very different. I've been through corporate restructuring before. So to me, looking at corporate, it doesn't give me certainty. If I'm going to bet on someone, I'm going to bet on myself because I know my hustle. I know my ability. I know how I help people. If I'm going to bust tail, I'm going to do it for me. I do mindset work every single day.
What's your mindset routine?
In the morning, I always start with gratitude. gratitude. I write out 20 things that I'm grateful for, and I really sit in the feelings and I journal out my big goal that I'm working towards and what it means to me. The number one question that people ask that halts our creativity. If I say to you, you're going to be making $50,000 a month, you'll say, how am I going to do that? And you'll immediately panic and think, I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure. I don't have the resources available. So what we do is we get overwhelmed and we stop. But it's the first question that we always ask when we have a goal. How would I achieve that? How would I do it? If we change that and instead say, what if I was making $50,000 a month? What would that mean for me and my family? What would it mean for my freedom to live my life the way I truly believe in living it? What would it mean if I was able to employ other women and empower them along their journey? What if it means that I'm able to donate in my community to programs that support women? When we connect with the what if, we connect with our vision, then we are much more likely to push through the roadblocks when we have those mindset moments. My mindset coach was a game changer for me. It honestly changed my life because I learned how to be able to harness the power of my thinking.
Absolutely. And I always say your mind is your biggest friend and your biggest enemy. How long does it take you to do your routine? And I love the fact that you go with 20 grateful things. Yeah. That's a lot. I love it.
Yeah.
People are like 5.
Yeah, some people are like 5 and then you do like the same 5. And it becomes very automatic. My top 10 always have to be new type things. So I can't just say I'm grateful I have my house. I really look at what am I truly grateful for today? I'm grateful that people that get pressure headaches, I have a friend that gets massive pressure headaches. Maybe she's grateful that it's gone and she can just be more productive and operate better that day. Some days I'm just grateful that I'm going to be talking with a friend later on, or it's sunny and I'm going to go outside with my dogs. I find things that truly matter to me that are going to be encouraging me. I spend probably about 35 minutes and I close my day out the same way. What are 5 things I'm grateful for that happened today? What am I celebrating that happened today? Because what we focus on is what we create. On average, we have 50,000 thoughts in a day, which is a lot. And 90 to 95% of them are a repeat from the day before. That's how we can get stuck in this loop that feels like Groundhog Day until we start to reshape that in our subconscious mind. And that's really what I did in working with my mind coach and what I do in working with women. That's where we get the deep, impactful change and the world opens up.
Absolutely. I love it. And I know that you're scaling up right now, building up your team and things like that. What lessons have you learned in that process?
Be patient, find the right fit. Just like in corporate, it's very expensive to onboard and offboard the wrong fit. It has an impact in your team and culture and morale and everything. Be very clear on what you want. Know the type of personality you're looking for. I have a big personality. If I'm working with someone who is very meek, very internal and quiet, I'm probably going to scare the heck out of them.
I can relate.
They're not going to enjoy it. So it's finding the right fit, knowing what you want and what you want them to do, but you're really clear on the type of person. If customer service is really key to you, then you want someone that really believes in that and it's something that they enjoy. If you need a highly technical skill set, then you want to know why you're needing that, what you're looking for them to do. So it's having your own clarity and being patient.
Absolutely. I've recently gone through that process as well, and it is hard. It's better to do it very intensively in the first round and actually do what you need to do, because offboarding is a headache for sure. Yeah,
it is.
I want to ask you my favorite question, which is, what is your proudest moment to date?
So there's a university called Queen's University, and it's a pretty prestigious university.
I've heard.
It's where I wanted to go. My plan was always to chase a law degree. I dreamt about it. This is where I was going to go. And in my later teens, I experienced a trauma. I was sexually assaulted. It impacted me heavily. It really did. And back then, like I'm 44, so back then, you didn't talk about it the same as people do now. It was something that I really internalized, and it had major impacts on me mentally. I stopped believing in myself. I stopped loving myself. Life went on, and I ended up applying to the school in my early 30s, and I got accepted, and I turned it down.
Okay.
I used the excuse that I'd have to move the kids and it would be unsettling for them. But honestly, I didn't feel worthy. unworthy. It was shortly after that I went on my journey of healing and really where I got introduced to NLP and the power of really fixing things. Recently, I actually was reached out to, and 2 weeks ago, I started leading trainings for Queen's University.
That's amazing.
So I'm not attending their school, but they're having me lead their trainings.
Hey,
so
it's come full circle, and they're paying you now. So
it really is a full circle moment. So it was that recognition of my expertise. It was that recognition of me. That's definitely been a super proud moment.
How did you celebrate?
Well, because we can't really do much. Of
course. I have a birthday coming up, and I think it's canceled as well.
Yeah, mine's in October, and I think it's just a pass this year. I don't think anyone ages this year. But no, we kind of had a dance party. We like tend to have dance parties in the kitchen. So it was just like silly stuff. But it was definitely something that my mom was so excited, my best friend, and all of these things. And so I got lots of great messages from people.
When are you going to start teaching?
So it's a lead program. It's developing leadership skills in women CEOs and business owners. They're in their cohort right now, and I'm leading some of the trainings. We'll see what it grows to for next year.
Lovely. Well, I'm going to try to get more value out of you because we can literally talk for hours. In your work, what do you think are the top 3 things that women or your clients really suffer from? What would be your number one advice to them?
Limiting beliefs are really the number one. It's these thoughts that we have, and they aren't actually our thoughts. They're thoughts and beliefs that were imposed upon us.
Yeah, socially conditioned.
Through our upbringing, childhood,
traumas,
experience, traumas, everything. One thing is work with someone to get rid of that. Work with someone to get rid of that, because the whole world opens up. And go for it. There are people that aren't going to believe in your vision. I tell people my vision and they think I'm crazy. They're like, there's no way you can do that. Watch me. I believe in it. It matters to me. It's my vision. This is my journey. Make it count, but we have to prioritize ourselves. Even as when we're moms, we have to prioritize ourselves, because what we're actually doing is modeling for our children what they're going to do and how they are going to view themselves, treat themselves, believe in themselves.
Absolutely. And it's really inspiring because I have anxiety, and my mom, I think she does have anxiety because I grew up with her constantly. And it's so true. Children really model our role model, which is our parents or whoever we grew up with. I think it's really important that the more aware you are of that, the more you can prioritize self-care, because you have to look after yourself first before you can look after your children, because they absorb everything. They really
they are absorbing. They're now absorbing. 5% of what we do operates from our conscious mind. 95% of what we do operates from our subconscious, and our subconscious is those deep embedded thoughts about ourselves. They create our actions, and we're habitual. We do the same thing over and over. So it's really breaking that pattern.
And going back to your vision, where do you envision your business will be in 2 to 5 to 10 years time? What's your higher vision?
It'll be huge. So
please tell me. I love it.
Next year is a big year. It's still a lot of prep and ramp up this year, but I'm launching in January. I'm launching a 6-month mastermind for women where we are diving into money mindset, because that is huge for us as women. We have huge money blocks.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And we're diving into goals and next level identity. It's a small, intimate group of women. There will only be 8 women in this mastermind, and then myself leading. And it's going to be for quantum leaps, growing from there. So I'm a certified NLP practitioner, and we're growing, bringing these types of services to women all around the world.
Amazing. I've done NLP as well, but for people who are not quite familiar with it, can you give a little tasters again?
Yeah, for sure. NLP is really working with our deep embedded thoughts. Like I said, it's our mindset. We're habitual. So it's these paradigms that we have and we operate from because we believe them. I was working with a woman yesterday who owns her own business and was really struggling with trusting herself and making decisions. Her limiting belief was that she just couldn't trust herself to make the right decision, and she was somehow going to mess everything up. And she's successful. She wanted to believe that she was interesting enough and that she was capable of creating content and sharing things that help other people. So we did one of our techniques in a 40-minute session. That original belief of her being not interesting enough, not being able to trust herself, not, just being good enough as a business leader. She used to feel that inside. I said, how would you describe that now? And after we had done our technique and worked through it, she said, it's like in my hand, like it's external to me, and I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking, that's ridiculous. This is the power of what it can do. She left the session truly feeling that she is doing what she's to be doing. It can be used for mindset in that way and really growing. That's how I freed myself from the trauma. I was able to release the emotional connections that kept me in this and to really reshape my deep internal thinking about myself. And I was angry. I was so angry because I spent so many years hating myself and I didn't need to. I do a lot of work locally. I'm a board director with a local nonprofit that supports young women who have experienced traumas. I do a lot of work in sharing this with women because we don't need to be tied to these past perceptions or other people's perspectives of us. Don't matter. It really builds this confidence within ourselves and this love for ourselves.
That's amazing, and great job on sharing your story and helping other people who've been through the same thing. It's really, really important, I think, as women to really share not just our successes, but also the challenges, because I think, and it keep going back in the same, I've been recording quite a few episodes for this podcast now, and it's the same theme of this burden on our shoulders that we have to be perfect from like birth. Yeah. I think the more we talk about the fact that you can't juggle everything at the same time without some kind of system, without support, without being nice to yourself, first and foremost, is really important. Before we finish, if you could tell the listeners where people can find you.
Sure. So you can check me out on Instagram, Key Element Solutions. Ask me questions, send me DMs. I love answering questions and talking about mindset and helping women. So connect with me on Instagram. And you can also learn more on my website, which is www.keyelement.ca. If you want to chat, there's a link there that you can book with me, and I'm happy to connect.
She's great to chat with. It's great. Would recommend. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.